Hello, good afternoon. For those on the East Coast of the United States, for those on the West Coast of the United States, good morning. And for those elsewhere, I will just say hello because I'm not sure of the time zone. My name is Chris Crowder. I'm with Unanet, and today I'm going to demonstrate some of Unanet's capabilities for you and how they can help to optimize your pipeline, your projects, your people, and your financials. We're going to cram about 20 years of developments into an hour here, so I will speak as efficiently as possible. I'll do my best to answer questions at the end, but we have a lot of information to cover, and so I'm not sure how much time we'll have remaining for questions. So if you'd like to submit them, we will be sure to get back to you with any questions. The one question that we do always get is, can I get the slides? Can I get a recording of the webinar? And the answer to that is yes. We will make this available following today's webinar. So I'm going to start by giving a little bit of an overview of Unanet, the company, and the software, and then we're going to step right into the demo. First off, Unanet is a project-based accounting system, and so what we mean by that is it's really built for purpose for people-driven and project-driven organizations where people are the primary driver of the revenue and contributor of the cost. The other point that I'll make here is it's one application that's been organically designed and built over 20 years, as I said a second earlier. So that will make sense, I think, as we step through this presentation and the demonstration when we get into it, why that is a functional advantage for an end user and a company running Unanet, in addition to just kind of a bumper sticker line there. So Unanet really looks at everything through the lens of a project, and that's also how we're going to organize our demonstration today. So on the front end of a project where we'll plan different people to different resources, assigning different scenarios and staffing mixes, we can assign different win probabilities and manage our pipeline with Unanet. All of that can be consolidated together for an overall project plan, for an organization plan, a budget and margin forecast, etc. Once you have the plan in place, you'll start to execute against that plan, which is the sort of the blocking and tackling of most project-driven and people-driven organizations, where people will enter time, will enter expenses against the plan that was created. Obviously, you'll also approve those the T&E that's been entered. There's a number of different collaboration tools in Unanet where you can actually upload attachments, so award documents, subcontract agreements, anything you'd like, and you can still control access to those documents. In addition, as you're executing against that plan, so continuing to the right into the dark blue column there, there's also a lot of dashboarding and management reporting right in Unanet. And one of the advantages that I alluded to at the beginning, Unanet is one application for project-driven and people-driven organizations. It can be real-time project costed, those projects as you're going. And what I mean by that is the moment that someone enters time into Unanet, either from their phone or from their computer, that time is immediately costed, and you can see in real time what your budget to actual hours costs look like. And so I think that'll make more sense when we get into the management reporting and the dashboards that you'll see in Unanet. Continuing to the right, as you're delivering that work, you can also invoice against it, and whether that's a time and materials project, a fixed price project, or a cost plus project, which many of our government contractor customers will have and require, and then a host of different revenue recognition methods, whether you're recognizing the revenue as you work it, based on a percent complete or based on a custom schedule that you might enter. And then lastly, on the right column there, accounting. So there's a full suite of accounting capabilities for project-driven organizations within Unanet. General ledger, AP, AR. Cost pools is really what differentiates a project-driven organization, which is where we're combining all those indirect costs in facilities potentially, IT, finance, HR, the executive suite, C-suite, and spreading them across all the different projects so that you can have really a project-driven P&L. In addition to some purchasing capabilities, now we'll facilitate that. We can also integrate with a host of other third-party applications, most commonly with payroll and HCM providers, because that happens on probably 99% of our implementations. But Unanet's very flexible for both inbounding, ingesting data, and exporting and making that data available. And we can talk a little bit about that later today. And certainly that's one of those areas, if you want to get deeper, we're happy to field those questions at a later date. Unanet constantly tries to engage our customers, and most recently this year we had our annual user group, and when we get together, we like to ask kind of, why did you pick Unanet? Why do you stay with Unanet? And these really summarize some of the reasons that we hear from our customers. So number one, Unanet provides that single source of truth, where as a recovering program manager myself, I managed everything from a suite, a various mix of different spreadsheets. In Unanet, you kind of get your head out of that spreadsheet. You allow everyone to be working from the same sheet of music, and it allows you to see everything through the same lens and have an aggregated view of all of your different projects. And I think that'll become more clear as we get into the demo. It's current, it's real time. The moment that someone enters time or makes a change in one part of the application, it filters out into the rest of the application as is appropriate. It's a consistent look and feel. So if you know how to do one thing in one aspect of Unanet, because we have one development team, one design team in a different part of Unanet, you'll be able to intuitively figure out how you might do it in a different part of Unanet. Unanet is 100% web-based. It can be deployed either in Unanet's cloud, which will be run on Amazon Web Services, or it can be deployed on-premise on your servers or in your own cloud. In either case, it is 100% web-based. There is no client to install on an end user's machine. So if you can access the internet, you'll be able to access Unanet. It allows you to plan your people into the future, and then as we like to say, the best way to see the future is to invent it. So by planning those people into the future, you'll be able to optimize the deployment of those resources, lower your G&A, realize higher margins, et cetera, et cetera. So this is just we have over 1,000 customers, and this is a sampling of some of the customers that we have. They really cross a variety of industries. The common thread, the important point here is that Unanet is really built for people-driven, project-driven businesses. As I mentioned earlier, where people hours, that FTE hour, is the primary driver of the revenue and contributor of the cost. And the other point that I'll make here is, as I said at the top of this slide, that Unanet will allow you to scale. And so it's not so much the size of the organization that matters. We've had customers start with us with 25 employees and 50 employees, and then scaling to 500, 1,000, 2,000 employees. So Unanet really positions you to scale and invest in engaging with your customers rather than back office reporting and invoicing and financial management. A little bit of background on Unanet, the company. I alluded earlier, we actually started 30 years ago as an IT architecture, IT services firm. At the request of several of our customers, we built the first web-based timesheet, and that was 20 years ago. And during that 20 years, we've reinvested those profits and iterated on what we built. And so went from just the timesheet to time and expense and resource management and project planning and billing and revenue recognition, and really a full ERP suite of accounting capabilities now. We're proud to say we're the highest rated project-based ERP on G2 Crowd and several other sites. So you can go out and do your own research and see what you determine there. We're also proud to be recognized by the Washington Post as a top workplace. We're headquartered outside Washington, D.C. We have employees all over the U.S. But as our developers and support staff are primarily located in the DC area, in 2016, 2017, and 2018, we've been recognized as a top workplace. We have a national network of partners, accounting firms, and other technology implementers that we're proud to partner with and grow with. Relatively unheard of for a software company. We are 100% designed, built, and supported in the U.S. And so when you have a question on Unanet, you're going to call Unanet. The phone will ring right where I am today in our headquarters in Dulles, Virginia. Might be answered by someone sitting in Colorado, depending on the time of day, but it is 100% U.S. supported. We're proud of our growth, especially over the last 3 years. We've averaged over 30% growth over the last 3 years, and I'm proud to say this year we're recognized in the Inc. 5000 list. And my last point here is we are entirely employee-owned, and I believe this is important from a customer perspective, because we don't have a private equity investor sitting on our board saying these are the capabilities that you need to build into your solution to drive 30% growth next year. Rather, our cocktail is pretty simple. We go out, we solicit feedback from our customers, we take that feedback to heart, and we build those capabilities into our solution. It creates just a fundamentally different relationship between Unanet and our customers. A little bit, speaking about our customers, I'd like to talk a little bit about the experience that our customers will have engaging with Unanet. And we start here with a quote from our founder, Fran Craig. And the reason that we like to talk about this is it really does pull through to every decision that Unanet makes and every interaction that Unanet tries to have with our customers. In the line here, you can read it yourself, but our clients are our jewels, and we shine them every day. So whether you're in the development team, whether you're on the business development team, whether you're on the consulting team or anybody else, we are always putting our customers first, and the decisions we make are driven by them. So here, that experience with Unanet is going to start with our professional services team, our consulting team. This may involve some of those partners that I mentioned earlier. It may just be directly with Unanet. But these folks will come in, they'll be involved with configuring your Unanet, training you on Unanet, integrating with third-party payroll or other systems, converting historical data, that sort of thing. We're really proud of our consulting team. It's really one of the differentiators for us because it frankly includes many former customers that frankly liked Unanet so much that as they continued with their career, they wanted a second career in consulting, and we're proud that they chose to join Unanet. The customer success team, maybe more traditionally known as the account management team, they're really responsible for the proactive reach out to our customers. Each customer has an assigned customer success manager whose job it is to reach out to you and make sure that our customers are aware of new features, new functionality that's coming out, and generally getting the most out of your Unanet. The reactive side of Unanet is the customer support side here, the customer support side here. You'll see the email address there. More importantly, the 703 area code. That is a Virginia area code that is just outside Washington, D.C. And this is when you have a question with Unanet, that will ring right here in our headquarters. And then lastly, this is my last slide. Unanet's also invested a lot, particularly over the last 1 or 2 years, in our self-service documentation, if that makes sense. So all of our help documentation is totally up to date. We publish our data models, so if folks want to query it and attach their own reporting tools, they can obviously do that. We also, this is a differentiator, I believe, for us. We have a publicly available knowledge center. So if you'd like to look at it yourself, kc.unanet.com. And this knowledge center is where our partners, our employees, our consultants, and our customers have all posted tips and tricks and best practices and generally how they get the most out of their Unanet. We're proud to see how Unanet was designed and built, and more proud to see, frankly, our customers make organic decisions and take Unanet in a different way maybe than it was intended, but for really neat and creative solutions. And so we share those on our Knowledge Center. We have a YouTube channel where we publish demos and the things that we're going to discuss today, maybe posted out there and available for you. We have regional cluster events all over the country, obviously being in the DC area. We have several of them here, but not just there is my point. West Coast, middle of the country, and all different places. We have our annual users group, which we call our Champions Conference. We tend to rotate coast to coast. Last year was in Tyson's Corner, a DC suburb. Next year we'll be in San Diego, California in May of 2019, and hope you can join us. And then lastly here is the LinkedIn user group, where, again, we get our thousands of users together to exchange stories, allow people to search for jobs and search for new employees, all that fun stuff. So those are the slides that I have. I'm going to next pivot right into the actual demonstration. I mentioned I'm going to do my best to save some time for questions at the end, but we have a lot to cover, 20 years of development to cover, and only we have here 46 minutes to do it in. So I'm going to move as quickly as I can to get through it. I think it's important to start with that history, though. All right. So I'm going to authenticate into Unanet here. When a user authenticates into Unanet, they're going to be presented with their dashboard. When my computer catches up to my mouth here. So when a user authenticates, they are presented with their dashboard right here. And so when I say dashboard, this is my home dashboard with one set of charts and one set of reports that I've chosen to add to my dashboard. And again, this is my home dashboard. Here's my projects dashboard, where I've chosen to have a different set of charts and a different set of reports. Here's my forecast dashboard with a different set of charts and a different set of reports. It's important to remember that these dashboards are all specific to the end user, to what that end user wants to see, and limited to only those things that they can see. It's also important to remember that because it's specific to that end user, it can be as sophisticated as you'd like it to be, or as simple. And so because this is a demo system and it's designed to answer as many questions as I might get in as few clicks as possible, I've thrown the kitchen sink out, right? I have a bunch of different charts, a bunch of different reports. But on your dashboard, you may have something different. And so here you'll see on my organization's dashboard where I've yet to add any charts or reports. I prefer to keep it a little bit simpler, a little bit more streamlined with some of the reports that I would like to keep here. So each user gets to configure the dashboard that they would like. So let's go back to my home dashboard. I like to start, and again, as a reminder, we're going to use this. If I can pull it back up for us. I'm going to use this to facilitate the demo today, right? So I'm going to start. If we've planned our people into the future, we're able to run a report like this. I like to call this my resource allocation report. So here I've planned my people into the future. I've aggregated all of my projects, and I can see who is overbooked and who is underbooked, who has too much work and who has enough work, right? And if I would like to understand where Darla is planned, I just click on Darla and I can see all the different projects on which she's planned right here. And right now I'm showing this in hours. I can also show it in terms of charges if I wanted. There's lots of different reporting that can come out of Unanet. So let me give you a sense of what some of this, how the reporting works in Unanet. I can run this report, run this query based on a specific organizational group, a department, a team. I could search for a specific person if I wanted. I could run this report based on a specific labor category. That labor category might be manager, project manager, business analyst, whatever that might be. It might be the category at which you invoice people. The location here, if I have somebody sitting in Colorado, somebody sitting in Arizona, I can search for different people based on those locations. I'm looking for someone in Florida. The skill is something a little bit different. So let's say the labor category is programmer or developer. The skill might be Java development. And so I'm going to look for all of the Java developers that are available to me. And let's say I would like to look for them. Right now I'm running this report week over week for 12 weeks. But I'd rather run it for I need someone for 8 months. So let's run this for 8 months. And I'll come back and explain what this means in a second. But here is where I can configure these colors based on what's important to my organization in terms of yellow, green, red. So I'm going to rerun this report looking for my Java developers. And here's what I get. Okay, Chris and Charlie are available for the next 8 months. Darla and Chad are not. One point I'd like to raise, so number one, this Unanet is a role-based system. So if I choose to only give someone access to the CS process engineering team, and they ran this same query, they're only going to see Chad, and they're not going to see Chris, Charlie, or Darla, and they may not know that Chris and Charlie are available. So as you set up your system, you want to configure it based on the organization that's relevant for your team and what you want different people to see, what you want them to edit, things like this. As I talk about dashboards too, I also want to point out how easy it is to adjust your dashboard. So here, let's say I like this Java developer report, Java developers. And what I'd like to do is save it to my home dashboard. So there I go. I go back to my home dashboard, and my Java developer report is right here under my reports on my dashboard, and I can always go back to it with just one click. So it's really up to me to create the reports that I want. The last thing that I'd like to show you on this report is this idea of a probability percent. So I mentioned at the beginning how you can assign win probabilities, and you can really use Unanet to manage your pipeline. And so if I choose to enable this use probability percent feature in Unanet, and I rerun my report, Chad's forecasted utilization, and different people call it different things, utilization, chargeability, billability, whatever that might be, but his forecasted utilization, it's the word I tend to use, went down to 158%. Let's click on Chad and figure out what happened. Okay, so this Study X project is a one project, it's 100%. So we're performing this work and we can see that. But this 777 project, this PSA upgrade project, all of these, I just have a 50% chance of winning. And so we've adjusted forecasted, we've applied a weighted forecast and adjusted these hours based on the likelihood that we're going to win it in the system. And so that this provides a lot of flexibility. You can adjust both your revenue and your predicted utilization based on the win probability. Obviously, we could also run this report based on only those active projects and disregard anything that isn't won or active. So there's a lot of flexibility when doing this in Unanet and managing your teams. Some of the other reports that I like to show that help understand some of the benefits of Unanet, I like to call this the project forecast here, where I can run this, and I'm reporting based on billable charges, but I can see everything on the 7011 project, everything for the StudyX project, big data, PSA upgrade, and so there's different projects that you can see and how you're planning to do this work. And again, I'm doing it based on charges, which is hours times rate. In addition, I can also look at this same data, but look at it through the lens of a person, right? So think about a pivot table in Excel, and I want to look at it through the person lens. And now I can see everything that Darla's on, everything that David's on, and everything that Dustin's on. So there's a lot of flexibility to support those different types of reports in Unanet. In Unanet, we also have the concept of a TBD resource. There are different words for this: a TBD resource, a plug resource, a ghost resource. But you can plan. You may not know the person, the named person that's going to do the work, but you can plan based on an average rate. You can plan based on an average cost rate for what a project manager would cost you to do this work. And then once you know who's going to do the work, you can swap that person out and say, okay, Charlene is going to do that work on this. And so you'll see that FTE plan for this TBD project manager came down here to Charlene. And now that plan is going to be in place for Charlene. Her actual cost rate can be used. In addition to planning people, you can also plan expenses in Unanet. So if I go to my expense planner here, I can plan one project at a time. If I'd like, just directly within that project's profile, I can plan my expenses. Or in this screen, I'm choosing to plan for a number of projects at the same time. So I select my project, I select my expense type, and these expense types are configured by each customer for what makes sense to that individual customer based on their nomenclature. Obviously, that's true of the project as well. But you're going to pick the expense type, which often corresponds one-to-one to an account in your general ledger, and then you're going to plan into the future, and I'm choosing to plan out over the next 6 months right here. So I plan my people, my direct labor. I also plan my expenses or my other direct costs. In Unanet, I can also plan my indirect costs. So I can go and I can have as many different cost structures as I'd like. I may set up different divisions with different cost structures. And then within these different cost structures, I can have my indirect rates. And so here you'll see that I've set this up with different fiscal years. And in FY18, I have a target rate, a provisional rate, and an actual rate. The actual rate represents my 18 fiscal year, but we can load GL budgets and calculate forward rates so that we don't have an actual rate for FY19. We're not there yet, but you can see what the target rate and the provisional rate is. So I can actually forecast my direct labor. I can forecast my other direct costs. I can also forecast my indirect costs. And then with all three of these things done, I can run a report that looks like this. So this is aggregating all of the projects. In this scenario, I'm choosing to group all the projects for under one customer, right? So this is everything for imagine one customer where we may have 5 or 10 or 50 projects all performing under it. But you can see here's the direct labor cost that we forecasted for January of 2019 for everybody under this customer. And you can get all the way to the bottom and see here's the margin that we're forecasting and the profit percent. This is, there's a tie now in my mind in Unanet for my favorite report in Unanet, but this is one of them. So I'm going to come back to this report a little bit later in the demo, and you'll get a better sense for why this is my favorite report. But this does allow you to look at everything, right? You'll see all your indirects broken down right here. This report can be customized, so if you'd rather not expose the detailed level of indirects, but would rather only show the total indirect allocation, you can do that. But we'll come back into this future or into this later in the demo. But this is a really important concept to understand for Unanet. The last report that I'd like to show is this pipeline report, because in Unanet, and this is just a browser feature, so if I hold control and I click on a link, you'll see it opens a different tab in my browser here. Here are the different projects that I have in my demo system. I want to point out this project status column, and I'll go down to this Mars mission recompete project right here, and you'll notice that if I've planned my people into the future, I may have different plans and assignments and labor categories, but all I have to do is change it from pipeline stage 1 to open and active, and all of my assignments and labor categories and rates, all that stuff will move forward and people can just build to it. But so here's where I can plan my people. What's neat is I can run a pipeline report. This is a fairly, I'm choosing to run just a pretty simple pipeline report here. But here I have 3 different stages, and you can define whatever stages you like for your organization, and then a probability, a win probability for each of these. And then we're calculating the total weighted value right here. And so that's really what I wanted to show as it relates to this planning phase right here, right? And so next, I'm going to move into the end user experience, right? Into booking time and expense against the plan that's already been entered. So now put your end user hat on, right? And so this end user logs into Unanet, and all they really want to do, all they can do, is enter time and enter expenses. So let's pencil into the timesheet, and this timesheet is a weekly timesheet starting on Sunday, ending on Saturday, but it can be weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly. It can start on any day of the week you want. On this timesheet, I've exposed 2 columns, project and task. I can have up to 6. So in addition to project and task, I may choose to expose location or labor category or project type or pay code. And all these different things can be configured for the end user to select. There are a lot of controls that Unanet can put to ensure that the end user enters as much time on the front end and as accurately as possible to reduce the likelihood or possibility that you're going to need to go back after the fact to correct it. So what I mean by that, you can have rules in here that for a specific project, let's say the period of performance is June 1st to October 31st, and effective November 1, you can no longer enter time. Same idea with an hours budget. Let's say you have a budget of 400 hours that you can work on this project, but on the 401st, you're going to get either a hard stop or a soft stop, soft warning that says, please have you can save your time, but your project manager needs to go and update the period of performance or update the hours, give you more hours, and then you can submit that time. So those controls can be set at the project level. They can also be set at the task level. And this can be a relatively unusual concept. And so to introduce it here, a task, subtask, is really a work breakdown structure that can be configured into Unanet. And you can actually assign people at the project level, or you can assign them at the task level. So you can have different people doing different tasks on a project with different beginning and ending dates and different hours budgets. So those controls can be set at the task level. Maybe you have a 1099 or a subcontractor that you want to manage a little bit tighter, and you may have some very specific controls around that subcontractor than you might for your employees. And you can do that using tasks in Unanet. And you can see right here that maybe not everybody and not every project uses the same work breakdown structure, the same groups of tasks. And they may also, everyone may not be able to see all the tasks that are available. They're only going to see those tasks where they've been assigned. Or maybe they're only going to see the task that's available to them right now on the project, because this maybe design task 3 doesn't start until December 1st or January 1st of next year. Some of the other controls you might see, you can require comments. So as the end user, and look at this, I'm looking at an old timesheet. Let's pull up a timesheet for this week. So if I try and enter time into the future, I might be restricted on today is October 16th. So if I try and enter time into the future, you're going to see, sorry, you cannot enter time in advance for this project. Similarly, even though today is the 16th, if I try and enter time for this project, I'm going to get a warning that says this project requires comments. So if I go in here and enter a comment, now all of a sudden that goes away. And so there's a lot of controls that you can enter in here. I'll also point out at the top here, Unanet has email reminders that can go out whatever time of day and however frequently you'd like. I highlight this 3361, that's called deep linking. So when we send that reminder to go out, there's going to include a link to the end user, and Charlie is going to receive that email at 6 a.m. in the morning, let's say. That's how we chose to set up that reminder that says, hey, Charlie, you didn't enter your time for yesterday. It will include a link, and it will bring Charlie right to this screen. It doesn't bring him to his home screen. It brings him exactly to this timesheet, which really enables a much easier time entry experience. Unanet also has the mobile timesheet, so this leverages web responsive design. It's not an app that you would download. Rather, it will size itself based on the real estate that's available on your phone. And so this is what a semi-monthly timesheet would look like on your phone. The advantage of web responsive design is, one, there is no app to download, so it's more secure. All of the data will be stored on your app server. Nothing will be stored on your phone. In addition, there's no synchronization lag between the app that might need to be updated and the server. So the moment that you change a labor category, add hours, add someone to a new project, it's immediately available on that person's timesheet. Because again, if you can access the internet, which you can do from your phone, then you can access Unanet. And so this creates a much better end user experience for our users. And frankly, is still something that a lot of folks need to start leveraging more of. In addition, I mentioned the older timesheet here. If I want to change time that I've already saved, many of our customers want to have an audit trail for time that's already been entered and then adjusted later. So you can either have a free-form text field if that's what you like, or many of our customers, particularly our government contractor customers, are going to want that audit trail to be a pick list. And so you can create whatever pick list you'd like here, and you can see what the change reason is for making a change to that timesheet. You can also restrict entering time into the future. So on this screen, you can see where we entered time into the future for vacation. And I guess it would be better again if I go to today. So if I try and enter time into the future, you're going to see that restriction right here. So there's a lot of controls that we can have on the timesheet. I guess the couple parting thoughts I'll leave here on that timesheet. Number one is I like to call it dirt simple. So been in Unanet for a few years, but nobody ever trained me on how to enter my time in Unanet. I got an email my second day, included the link. I clicked on that link. I entered my time. I moved on. It does make for a very easy experience. You guys have seen it for 5 minutes. I'm sure everybody on the webinar could enter their time. And the last point I'll make is it is in real time. The moment that someone enters time, clicks save, it's immediately available for some of the project reporting that we're going to see here in a second. And so that's really powerful. Some of the other end user reports, we do have the concept of a leave request. So if you'd like to have people submit a leave request, and this is especially important over the summer months and end of year holidays that are important to so many people, but this way they can submit that leave request and you can see the forecasted leave and make sure that you can plan accordingly and you have sufficient coverage for some of your customer projects. You can have custom messages both on your Unanet home screen and also on your timesheet. You can have custom links right here to your payroll provider, to your SharePoint site, to your fantasy football site for your company, whatever it is that you'd like, you could do that here. Some of the other end user reports that a lot of our customers want to see. So here are the projects on which I'm authorized to work and the budget that may be assigned for me here. I can also go in and see the projects on which I'm planned. So here I can see these are the 2 projects, and I'm only planning to work for 2 hours actually on this Monday. I can see my utilization. So Charlie can go in here and see what his actual utilization has been. And he's had a couple of good weeks, but some bad weeks. I mean, Charlie needs to be concerned relative to hitting the goals that we set for him. And I can also see my leave accrual. So we can build leave accruals into your Unanet, which will show what your current balance is, right? Your available hours as of this time. But you can also see what your forecasted leave will be. So the leave accrual plan is built into Unanet, and I can see if I do not take leave, what my forecasted leave balance will be as of a certain date in the future. And so that's really nice. It tends to take some of the burden off the HR team, and people can just go, the end users can go right into Unanet and see some of this information. So that's really nice. And they can also see all their completed timesheets and expense reports if you'd like to see it. So the expense reporting, you can enter a new expense report. We also have the concept of an expense request. So if you'd like to attend Unanet's Champions Conference next year in lovely San Diego, California, you can enter that expense request right here, and that would follow the a similar process, maybe identical depending on how you set up your Unanet, to the expense reporting process. But here is the expense reporting part of Unanet. So a user is going to go in here, select the date, select the expense type. Again, as a reminder, going to be configured based on your preferences, and enter the amounts. We do have the General Services Administration within the federal government has different rules set in place for per diem amounts and things like that. And a lot of our customers, both government contractors, folks that do work for the federal government and folks that don't, leverage, and a lot of their customer contracts have requirements that they put in place so that folks want to leverage these per diem amounts. So all an end user has to do is come in, select where they're traveling. Either if it's in the U.S., they can pick the state, outside the U.S., the country, then they can pick the city, the county, and then the per diem will come right in here, and they can enter what the actual amount was. Here, this is a lodging per diem, so in Arlington, Virginia, GSA will say that you can spend $231 a night, but this is the actual amount that you had, and Unanet will separate any overage right here. Obviously, you don't have to do this. You can just have a lodging entry as well, and then we wouldn't separate an overage, and that's true for both the lodging and the MI&E. So you can go in here, and MI&E stands for meals and incidental expenses, pardon me. Same thing, user will select where they're going. The per diem will come in right here. If it's a travel day, GSA says there's a certain allocation that would be decremented right here. Same thing if you're attending a meeting and let's say that they provided breakfast, it will decrement based on the allocation that they've determined for breakfast. So as the simplest example of this point, right? Let's say I'm going to Antoine, Arkansas. It is a travel day. Somebody bought me breakfast, somebody bought me lunch, somebody bought me dinner. I'm still going to be reimbursed though for my incidental expenses around this travel where I don't know, I may buy a pack of gum. So all of this can be configured based on whatever is relevant for your expense type. We can build custom business rules into your Unanet. This is both on the timesheet and on the expense report, so you can see that right here. We can also integrate with a corporate credit card. So here at Charlie's person profile, he will have his specific credit card assigned to him. So I can go in here and import this specific expense right here. So the parking will be brought in just like this. And here you can see everything coming in from my credit card just like that. What's nice about integrating with the corporate credit card is somebody in the finance team usually is going to keep track of everybody's charges on the corporate account, and only Charlie's are going to be his responsibility, but someone gets to see overall to make sure that all of those charges get assigned out, either to maybe just a G&A project or to a specific end customer project. You can also attach receipts, so you can take a picture with your iPhone, with your Samsung, whatever it is, and upload that directly into your Unanet. So that is expense reporting. I next wanted to show you what the approval process would look like. So I will log out as an end user and log back in as a manager. So now put your manager hat on, and a manager is going to enter time, or pardon me, approve time and approve expense. So here we're looking at timesheets from 10/16 to 10/31. This is a semi-monthly time period. So I'm actually going to change this because really what I want to look at is the previous period. So if I rerun this report, oh boy, now this isn't the data that I like to see, right? So I can see this time period is supposed to be done, and I have a lot of people that have yet to submit their timesheet. And if I want to see who's missing their time, all I have to do is click on this pie piece, and I can see that Betty, George, Grover, Faye, and Grace are actually the folks who have yet to submit their time. And if I would like to email George, I can, came up on my other monitor here, I can email George Bush directly from Unanet. Presumably, George will have already received that email reminder if we've configured our Unanet to do that. But you can email directly out of Unanet. The goal here is get to green, though, right? So who is yet to start entering their time, who has started to enter their time but have yet to submit it, but then it's submitted, then it'll be approved, and then it'll actually locked extracted as if that gets interfaced and sent over to your payroll provider. The actual approval process, pretty straightforward. You go in, I want to look at Chad, and well, wait a second, Chad only entered time for a few days here, so I'm going to need to disapprove Chad time entry. If I try and disapprove it, it's going to require me to enter a disapproval comment. So here, please finish your timesheet. And this will fire an email off to Chad, again, with a link to that relevant timesheet so that he can see, so that he can update that and resubmit it. But if you'd like to approve it, it's just a matter of clicking this, this approve on the next one. If you'd like to edit the timesheet, if someone's out, obviously you can have a couple folks with the ability, maybe all of your managers if you want. If you only want to give 1 or 2 people this this ability, if you want to give none of your users the ability to edit the timesheet, then this can just go away. But if you'd like to allow folks to edit the timesheet because you really need to get payroll processed, you can do that. And again, for our government contractor customers, there's a setting in Unanet where you can go in and that end user will have to review the time that was submitted on their behalf. And so there's that in Unanet. But you can see all the comments, all the details around that time entry right here, and we can approve that. So that's as simple as it gets as far as time approval gets. And then the last thing I'd like to show you here is this timesheet status report. There are 3 different types of approvals in Unanet. We have an org level manager approval, we have a project approver, and we have a customer. And so this manager here is really what I like to call sort of the org manager, right? And so Grace Director is going to see all of the time that Gus submits on his timesheet. So Grace will see everything. Here, Grace, again, is going to see everything that Gwen submits. Gus is only going to see the time that Gwen has submitted against Gus's project. So this is that project approver. And then the customer approver, if you'd like to have the customer review and approve the time. This is similar to a project approver as well. You can have as many different org level managers as you'd like. So there's a lot of flexibility to set up different organizational groupings in Unanet that way. All right, so continuing on, let me go back, and next we're going to go. We've done some planning, we've done some time and expense. So now let's look at some of the reporting in Unanet. So I'm going to re-authenticate into Unanet, and I'm going to look at this through the lens of an administrator in Unanet. So the first report that I want to show you is this simple, sort of high-level budget actual. This report can actually be pretty advanced, but this is a nice place to start, where it's just showing me all the projects for this customer, what my budget is, what I've actually done, and what my variance remaining is. Right now, I'm running this report based on hours. If I choose to run it based on charges, I could do that. A lot of flexibility in this out-of-the-box reporting for Unanet. In addition, you can also look at utilization for an entire team. So we looked at this based on planned data. Now I'm looking at it based on actual data. So here, these are all the different people and the different teams that I might have. So these might look familiar. So my DS team, I can see how Darla, David, and Dustin are doing. And my actual chargeability, my actual utilization has not been great, but I can see what my totals are by team. I can also see what my grand totals are. So I can see that in my utilization report based on actuals rather than plans, which is what I showed earlier. We also can accommodate some earned value reporting in Unanet, which is really nice. So you can go in here and look at activities for a current period. Really the value of this report, if I scroll all the way to the right, I know it's probably a little bit small, but I can see what's my budget at completion, what's my estimate at completion, and what's my variance at completion. So so the EVM reporting in Unanet is really nice. All right, so I'm going to go back to my favorite report, but I'm going to show you a slightly different version of this report. So the format probably looks similar, but what's different now is the first time, again, I ran it based on planned data only. Now I'm running it to include actuals. So on this report, I'm including actuals through today, October 16th, and plans as of tomorrow, October 17th. The actuals are represented with an asterisk, A actual asterisk. The plans are represented with a plus, P plan plus. And here you can see in October where we're combining the actuals with the plans. And what's really neat about this report, I scroll all the way to the right and I can see, all right, what's my budget for, my labor's budget anyway, for this project? I can see all of the activities to date. If I combine everything that I've done with everything that I'm planning to do, that should really equal my budget. So again, what I've done plus what I'm planning to do should equal that EAC, which is that earned value, one of those earned value metrics that I showed you earlier. In this case, we have an unallocated budget of $359,000. On a fixed price project, that's good. On a T&M project or on a cost plus project, what that means is we are not planning to earn $360,000 of the project. And so what your project managers would do is really just, probably once every other week. You don't want to live in Unanet, you want them engaging with the customer. But once every other week, they're going to come into Unanet and they're going to look at this report and they're going to want to update their plans so that this unallocated budget is as close to zero as we want it to be or we can get it to be. And so all that would likely require is them going in here and planning, and just given time, I'm not going to have time to do all of this, but just to give you a sense, right, I'm going to go into this project and I'm going to update my plans. And in this version of the plan, right, I'm planning in terms of FTEs. I can also plan in hours. I can look at it month over month, week over week, day over day, semi-month over semi-month, however I want it to plan, and I can build that grid. But then I can refresh this report and understand how all of this works together. And we're happy to get into more details in the future. This is such a powerful report. I'm disappointed that we don't have more time to cover today, because as I mentioned earlier, it's one of my favorite reports in Unanet. The other thing that I do want to point out is we can have an unlimited number of cost report formats. So the version of this report that we were looking at, this JSR, some people that term might be familiar to some of you, a few of you. It just stands for Job Status Report. There are some companies and some out there that like this JSR and PSR terminology, so that's the reason that we've adopted it. But you can call it whatever you'd like. And you can go in here and say, okay, here is the way that we've configured this report. This is how I choose to label the items. And the example that I gave earlier, let's say I don't want to see the detailed indirects. I don't really care that my project managers pay attention to those detailed indirects. So I'm going to remove these from my report. That's right. Sorry about that. I'm going to remove my indirects, not my total ODCs, but my indirects from my report. I go back to my favorite report. I refresh this report, and here you can see where those detailed, fringe, G&A overhead are removed, and you just see total indirects. So it's up to each company to create the lens through which you want your project managers to manage your engagements. I love this report. And so kind of another version of this report, this is really that periodic project cost report, that periodic PSR, JSR, if that term is familiar to you. You can see that similar report right here, but this is just a point in time version of that report. These columns probably look familiar, right? So what's the labor's budget on this project? You can see what the % of the budget is incurred and what the backlog is that's remaining. What's powerful about this report is you can actually click in, because Unanet is one integrated database of all this information. You can go in and see, okay, Charlene charged to this project. She charged as an administrative assistant, and you can see how many hours, what the cost rate what the cost was that she booked to this project, and you can see all of that right here. So you can see that both from the labor's perspective. You can also see it from an ODC's perspective. The other version of this report that I like to show is, we call it the one line per project. And so it's grouping by almost cost element. So here I've grouped all of my projects under one specific customer, right? And I can see all the labors on that project and all the way across. But I just go back to the selection criteria. I choose the version of the cost report that I'd like to run. This margin summary is one that I like to use sometimes because it shows the data at a higher level, right? So what's the gross revenue on this specific project? Were there any adjustments? What's my net revenue? And a lot of times net revenue represents just what the revenue was from my employees versus my subcontractors. So here's my direct labor costs, any ODCs that may be associated with this project. So I can get to my gross margin. I remove the indirect costs, which we've already talked about. So gross margin minus my indirects gets my net margin. And here's my gross margin %, my net margin %. The last one that I like to show is my project profit. This has a lot of information on it, this report, but it also helps to tell a story about what could be done. You can have really whatever you'd like on these types of reports. So what's my net average bill rate on this project? How does that compare to my goal average bill rate? What is my wrap rate by project? All of these different KPIs can be calculated and managed all within your different Unanet reports. And it makes for a much better and more efficiently run business. The last report that I'm going to show is my project control panel, and I'm running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to move a little bit fast. But this is just really a way to consolidate all my information on a specific project to include my AR balance right here. All right, and I'm going to need to finish up here pretty quickly, so I'm not going to be able to cover as much as I had hoped to cover. So one thing that I do want to, I'm next going to move into my my invoicing process. So as I'm invoicing, let's look at this specific project, and I can see what my people assignments are right here on this project. Here you'll see that Charlie is a system engineer billing at $145.10, but that's on the brand strategy task. If Charlie charges to the code task, you'll see here Charlie is a project manager billing at $132.66. So there's a lot of flexibility for you to configure your projects based on each individual person and to make sure that you're recouping as much as you can for that person. And frankly, as flexible as you'd like it to be. You can also set up as many different invoice formats as you'd like. So we like to call this the WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. The left-hand side will control what displays on the invoice on the right-hand side. So because Unanet is one system, everything entered from the timesheet can get pulled all the way onto the invoice right here. So you can control, let's say you wanted the fixed price section to be at the top of the invoice, or your customer did. You can move that fixed price section all the way up right here. Let's say on the T&M labor section, you wanted to show the work date. You also wanted to show the comments that were entered on that timesheet. You can enter that here, and you can bring the comments all the way from the timesheet onto your invoice. So a lot of flexibility will be a huge time saver. So you create the invoice format that you want, then you go back to your project dashboard, and let's just stay on this content production project. And you can see here on the billing level, you can invoice each project as a standalone project if you'd like, or you can combine projects via lead and contributor projects. You're going to select the invoice format that you'd like to use. You can choose a different invoice number. You may have a specific invoice number for a specific customer or division of your organization. You can have different payment terms. You're going to pick the customer, the contact name that you'd like to send it to. You can choose to email this or print it. You can have different kind of standard email messages that you want to send. You can You can BCC yourself, your AR group, or and you can request a delivery receipt or a read receipt. Here's where if you wanted to have a cover page for your invoice and then show detail on a follow-up one, you could, and then any other manual information that you wanted to add. And then the other thing, for all your fixed price projects, you could also set those up in Unanet. So I can go and set up my my fixed price billings right here. And so let's say I wanted to invoice for fixed price for design, and billing date, we'll just say it's today, and the bill amount, let's make it $48,000. And here is what I mentioned at the introduction. We can recognize revenue either as it's billed, which is what a lot of emerging businesses do. You can recognize revenue based on percent complete. So this is a little bit more sophisticated. You only want to recognize it when you've actually earned that revenue, or it can be done on a custom schedule. And this percent complete can be calculated in Unanet based on the hours, the cost, or different ways, or it can be entered based on a technical percent complete, based on a project manager or someone else. You can also build a custom schedule in Unanet. So let's say you bill monthly but want to recognize quarterly. You can build this revenue recognition schedule right in Unanet, right like this. And let's say you wanted to front load some of the revenue recognition. Unanet wouldn't allow you to save until the scheduled amount matches the total bill amount. And so I correct that here, and you can see that the variance moved to 0, and now I can save that. So you're going to build whatever you need to there. The other report that I'd like to show as I'm demonstrating the invoicing capability is right here. This report's going to show everything that's been billed and how does that compare to everything that's been recognized. And on a T&M project, that's always going to be 100%. You're going to work the hours, and then you'll bill for the hours. But on a fixed price project, there may be a difference. There may be some deferred amounts where you're recognizing less or more based on the work that you've actually done. And so this might be different, and it'll allow you to keep track of it. It'll also, more importantly, allow you to keep track of any unbilled. So I'm going to keep this report up as we step through some of the billing processes here. All right, so this is some of my favorite stuff in Unanet. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the billing and revenue post, and I'm going to do this rather quickly. The advantage of that is you'll be able to see just how easy it is for you to do all of your invoicing in as quickly as just a couple minutes, which is what you're going to see right here. So these are all the projects that where there have been approved timesheets. And I'm going to run my billing and revenue post. And so what this means, green is going to be good. What this means is taking all of the approved timesheets, all the fixed price items that have been marked as ready to be billed. It's moving it into the unbilled accounts in your chart of accounts. And I'm going to refresh this report. You're going to see this unbilled column populate. You can click through and actually see what this data looks like if you wanted to. But it's really staging the information for to be added to an invoice. So now let's go back. So this is great. We've posted our labor. Now let's add an invoice. And I would like to invoice. There's a lot of flexibility, but I'm going to say I'm a little bit behind because it's mid-month. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to invoice through the end of September. And here we go. September 30th. Here again, based on the labor that I posted, here are all the invoices that I can generate. And as a reminder, there were more projects when I posted labor, and that's because we had that lead and contributor project right here. So I'm going to generate those invoices again. Green is going to be good. Let me list those invoices. And again, now I'm going to refresh this report, and things should slide from unbilled into draft. So we've taken all of that unbilled. It's still on the unbilled account in my chart of accounts, but now it's been added to a draft invoice. And again, you can see that right here. So, all right, here's that draft invoice. Let me look at my favorite content production project right here. And here is my invoice. And let's say I'm looking at it, and George Washington charged time on this project as a QA auditor, and my customer is challenging the time that George charged on the project. Rather than hold up the entire invoice, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to defer George's time. And there's a lot of flexibility. If I want to write off, if I want to write up hours, up a rate, down a rate, I could do all of that right here. But for now, let's just say I want to defer George's time because I think I can talk my customer into accepting those hours, maybe next month or on a supplemental invoice later. So let me relook at the invoice after I've deferred George's time. George has been moved off. Let me refresh this report now, and I can see there's 2,000 in unbilled. What is that again? Okay, here's George. And so the nice thing about Unanet, the next time I run this invoicing process, George's unbilled time will get automatically added to this next version of the invoice. And so that's really nice. And so let's say this invoice looks good. I can go back to my my list of invoices, and I can choose to complete this invoice, and that fires an email off to the customer to see what that invoice looks like. And I can actually complete all of my invoices right here, and that really does a lot. And so if I want to see what my AR aging looks like, I can pull up my AR aging report, and here are the different projects that are active or have active invoices, and that content production project where we just were. I click on that one, and here is the invoice, and here you can see where George is not included. His time is still in that unbilled column, and I can refresh this report, and now everything's been moved from draft into billed, and still George's time remains in this unbilled column. So flexibility on the invoicing side is really great. All right, the last point here, and I sincerely apologize, I got too excited with some of the other features in Unanet. We're not going to be able to get to all the different capabilities in our in our accounting solution as I'd like, but you can see what just a general ledger entry would look like here. Here's a recurring payroll journal. All of these different screens look and feel similarly, so you can see the different document dates here. Is it a reversing entry, a recurring entry? You can see the details right here, whether a project is required or not. That's configured at the account level, and so if there's this kind of smart finishing where I start typing, and automatically it'll give me the different options to look up. But what I want to point out is at this account, it's required a project. So it's really up to you to configure a chart of accounts that's based on your preferences. And for each of these, both your AP, your AR, and your journal entries, you can save attachments. So if you have, you're making a journal entry and you like to keep track of what that looks like, of kind of the calculations you made, you can store that in here for auditors to look at. The fiscal period close, you can set that up right here, and a lot of flexibility if you want to close AP and leave different things open, and then reopen prior periods. You can keep open as many periods as you like. There's no limitation in Unanet on that, but there's also a lot of flexibility to close certain portions as you're moving forward. And then the last thing that I'd like to show you today is the cost pool calculations. So rather than actually running the entire cost pool, I'll just show you what it looks like. Look at all the data for the previous year, and you can see these are the different cost pool calculations that are run, and these are really nice in Unanet. So think of this as the additive calculator. These are different cost pools that I've configured in my Unanet. You can have as many different cost pools as you'd like. And the way that Unanet manages this is really a differentiator. But here you can actually drill in to see exactly what's included in the pool, exactly what's included in the base, and what the actual rate is. And again, you can drill in right from here all the way down to your GL details if that's what you'd like to see. And so this gives a lot of different flexibility. So unfortunately, we're about out of time. I apologize that I didn't get into as much in the accounting capabilities of Unanet as I typically like to. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have 20 years of development, and it's difficult to get through everything in just 60 minutes. On behalf of Unanet, I'm really excited for you to engage with one of our business development executives. If you have any questions, please do post it into the webinar, and we will be sure to follow up with you with an answer. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, and we hope to work with you in the future. Thank you very much.